Yes, it's that most wonderful time of the year and you're going to need something festive and beautiful to impress your family with, and for that I would recommend the Buzzby Bakes Christmas Tea Towel. Check it out over at buzzbybakes.com and get your orders in now so I can make sure they get to you in time for Christmas. But whilst your friends and family are gazing in awe at that beautiful tea towel, you're going to want to give them something to eat, and for that I recommend a Tear and Share Cinnamon Star. So a Tear and Share Cinnamon Star. This looks amazing and tastes delicious. You may have seen something similar using this to fill it with. Do give it a go, it's absolutely delicious, but I wanted to do something a little bit more festive, so I'm swapping out the chocolate and we're going to make our own cinnamon butter to fill it with. So for the recipe you're going to need 500 grams of strong white bread flour, 50 grams of caster sugar, 10 grams of instant yeast, 10 grams of salt, 2 medium eggs, and then in a pan I've melted 70 grams of unsalted butter and then taken it off the heat and added 230 grams of whole milk. That just cools the butter a little bit and takes the chill off of the milk. Then for the filling you're going to need another 70 grams of unsalted butter. You need that to be really soft and malleable, and into that we're going to add 50 grams of soft brown sugar, 25 grams or a tablespoon of plain flour, 10 grams of cinnamon, or if you're not a big cinnamon fan, you could try a combination of other spices, and then also the zest of 1 orange just to really amp up those Christmas flavours. Now you could mix this by hand in a bowl, but today I'm going to be using the KitchenAid. So we'll kick things off with the flour goes in, the 50 grams of caster sugar, the 10 grams of instant yeast, the salt, the 2 eggs, 1, 2, get that into the mixer. I'm going to switch it on and then pour in the liquid. In that all goes. If you're mixing it by hand in a bowl, you'll probably want to mix it and knead it a bit for about 10 minutes. If you do it in the KitchenAid, 5 minutes should be fine. Start it off on a low speed and then you can crank it up to a 2 or a 3.
5 minutes later.
Okay, that's looking good. It's come together nicely, looking nice and smooth and shiny. So we'll just use a dough scraper to scrape that off the dough hook. There we go. Then just go around the edge of the bowl, pulling the dough into a ball in the middle. So it looks something like that. And then we're going to cover it with a sheet of cling film to stop it drying out, because we're going to leave this to proof for 1 hour at room temperature, and then we're going to get it in the fridge overnight. Now if you want to make this in a day and not do the overnight cold bulk proof, then you'll still want to get it in the fridge for an hour or 2 just to firm up the dough, because that's really going to help you when it comes to shaping it. Okay, then we've got our dough here cold from the fridge, so now we want to tip it out and divide it into 4 equal pieces. So a little dusting of flour or rice flour if you've got it, and then just ease it out from the bowl if you've got your dough scraper, like so. Get it all, we don't want to waste any. There we go. And now just divide it into 4 equal pieces. There we go, and now we want to shape these into nice tight round balls, because that is going to help us get a good shape when we come to roll them later. So, scrape that off there. Again, touch of flour, not too much, and then just go around the edges, bringing it into a nice round shape, getting some tension across the top there, and then onto the worktop and using the heel of your palm to push the dough forward and your fingers to rotate it. You can just bring it into a nice taut ball like that. I'm going to place that, just dust a little flour there, place that there. Do it with all four. There we go. And now is the perfect opportunity to use your Christmas tea towel just to gently cover those dough balls. And now we want to leave them to bench rest for about half an hour. That's just going to allow them to come up to temperature a little bit and for the dough to relax into its new shape, which will again help us to get a good shape when we come to roll it. Okay, so whilst the balls are relaxing, matron, we can get on with making the cinnamon butter, which is very simple. Just make sure that your butter is really soft. I've just had mine in the very low oven for a couple of minutes, so I know it's super soft. And now to that, add the 50 grams of soft brown sugar, the 25 grams of plain flour, and the 10 grams of cinnamon, and then grate in your orange zest, or you could use clementine zest if you haven't got an orange. There we go. And now just using a fork, beat that all together without spilling it all over the table. Like so. Square that little bit up there. Okay, so now we know our dough is going to be beautiful, our filling's delicious, so now it's all about assembling this into something that looks amazing. Because if you just have a bit of care and patience, you can create something that looks truly spectacular. So, dust a little bit of flour onto your worktop. Take one of the dough balls, bit of flour on top, and then with a rolling pin, you want to roll it out to basically the size, well, a little bit smaller than the baking tray you're going to bake them on. So I've got mine here, baking tray lined with some baking parchment, and I'm just going to leave it there as a reference so I know how big to roll these out. And just be patient, be gentle, work with the dough. Keep moving it, turning it, flipping it over so you know it's not sticking to the worktop. And you want to get a nice, even, round disc. If you find that the dough's kind of fighting you, so you roll it out and then it springs back in again, just put that one to the side, let it relax for a bit longer, and then the gluten won't be fighting you when you come to roll it, and just move on to the next one. So again, bit of flour, and then you can just keep coming back to them till you've got them all to the shape you need. Okay, there we go. So now it's time to assemble. So get the baking parchment. It's probably easier not to do it in the baking tray, particularly if it's got sides. And then take your first disc, put that on the bottom, and then you want to spread 1/3 of your cinnamon butter onto that disc. So get that on there. Use a little spatula or a knife and just spread it all over. You can go all the way up to the edges. There we go, get that back in the middle of the paper. And now lay your next one on top, and that one wants to just sit just outside, just overlapping the edges. like so. Push it down a bit and spread your next third of filling on top of that. Like so. Then you get your third layer. Again, stretch it over the top so it's just a little bit bigger than the one below. And get the remainder of your filling on there, because you don't put any on top of the fourth layer. So this is the last chance to use it all up. Like that, looking good. And then our fourth sheet goes on top. So again, get it on there and stretch it over the whole lot. Now the point of getting the layer slightly bigger as we go up is when we come to cut this and crimp the edges of our stars, where the layers are sort of going smaller to bigger, you're going to end up with kind of a mitre joint, and you'll get a really nice seal and hopefully a good point on the end of your star. So I'm going to just dust that with a smidgen of flour, like so. And now you want like a glass, or I'm just going to use the edge of this here. Actually, that's a little bit big. We'll use the bottom of that. Make a circle in the middle. That's going to be the centre of your star. Better to use a glass so it kind of cuts down. And now you want to divide this into 4 pieces, not all the way through. You're going to cut from the outside of that circle you've just made with the glass to the outside of the dough. So cut straight down there. Turn the dough 180 degrees and do one coming out the opposite side. Turn it 90 and then turn it 180 again. There we go. And now you want to divide those 4 each into 2. So have that facing you. Cut that down like that. Like that. So now you've got 8 pieces, and now you want to divide it again. So go around dividing each of them into. Now do take your time doing it, because you want to get them as even as possible. That one there, I was a little bit out, but you want it to look as symmetrical as possible. But now it's kind of the fun bit. The maths is over, and now we're going to create our star. So you want to take 2 pieces, pick them up, turn them outwards, half a turn them outwards, half a turn again, then just turn them a quarter of a turn so the sides are standing up, and you'll see you've got the ends of all your pieces of dough. Just put them together and give them a squeeze to crimp them together. I'm going to go all the way around doing that, and then I'll show you what to do next. There we go. So like I say, don't worry about if you see them pulling apart a little bit now. We'll give them a proper crimp up once we've chilled the dough. So now slide the whole thing onto your baking sheet. I'm going to put it at a bit of an angle so it's not quite as wide. There we go. And now we want to give it a glaze with the egg wash now, but we're going to do it again before it goes into the oven. So just go all the way around, brushing it all. Give it a nice old glaze up. This is going to make it look, it's going to give it such a lovely shine and a lovely colour. Make sure you do the middle as well. There we go. And now just loosely cover that with a bit of cling film. That's the bit I reserved from the dough earlier. That's just going to stop it drying out. And I'm going to leave that at room temperature for an hour. You want to see it puff up. You do want it to prove nicely. If you don't, you're going to find the layers kind of, when you're eating it, the layers will peel apart. They'll be quite thin and they just don't have that sort of softness to them. So really make sure you keep an eye on it now. Give it a good hour, hour and a half, so all those layers kind of proof into each other and you end up with a really luxurious bun at the end. Alright then, so that's been proofing at room temperature for an hour. We can see it's puffed up quite a bit, looking good, but we can see that some of the stars have sort of burst open. But don't worry about that. What we're going to do is, in fact I shouldn't have screwed that up, we should have left it covered. We're going to pop that in the fridge now, just for sort of 15 minutes maybe, whilst we preheat the oven. The dough will just chill down a bit, particularly around the edges, and then we can give that a good crimp before we put it in the oven. So, preheat your oven to about 200 degrees Celsius and get that in the fridge, and then I'll show you what to do next.
20 minutes later.
Okay, then our oven is preheated. Our dough has chilled for a bit, so it's just a little bit firmer. So now, be careful, you don't want to squeeze air out of these sort of buns around the edge. You just want to make sure the sort of tips of the stars are nicely crimped together so they don't burst open in the oven. So just go around making sure they're pinched together nicely, like so. There we go, looking good. And now give it one final brush with the egg, just to make sure we get a really nice shiny glaze on there. And it also means if you missed any before, you've got the second opportunity to get it covered. There we go. And now that is going to go into our preheated oven, and as soon as you put it in, turn it down to 160 degrees Celsius. So that way it's going to get the initial heat, which is going to help it spring, start getting a bit of colour, but then we're going to bake this quite slowly so it doesn't get too dark on the outside. I'd bake it for somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes. If it's the first time you bake it, I'd push it closer to the 20. To be honest, if this is underbaked, it's going to be a bit doughy on the inside, round the bottom there, so it's probably preferable to have it slightly over. The worst that'll happen is it'll be a little bit dry, but let's face it, we're going to be eating this with a cup of tea, cup of coffee, or probably a hot chocolate, so there's going to be plenty of stuff around to moisten it up. So push it to the 20, then if you bake this 1 or 2 times, you'll be able to gauge it better. So I'm going to get that in the oven, and then we'll come back and have a little taste up. Alright then, there we have it, looking absolutely beautiful. If you thought that was pretty, then think again. Although seriously, do check out buzzbybakes.com. There's a few Christmas ideas over there, as well as the tea towels, so get your orders in now. But when it comes to your star, once it's out the oven, get it onto a wire rack and let it cool, and then, because come on, this is for Christmas, this is the centerpiece, we're going to want to dress it up a bit. Before your guests come down, get it onto a nice platter, like so, and then go a little bit crazy with the icing sugar. Come on, 'tis the season. All the way around, looking good. Like that. And that is gonna go down a treat. Dish it up with some tea, coffee, hot chocolate, mulled wine, ginger wine would work well with that, but whatever you do, make sure you're sharing it with friends, family, or people you care about. I'm going to tear into this, give it a little go. We can see actually it did slightly overproof. It still looks good, but when you overproof a bit, things tend to expand a bit too much in the oven, you get some tearing, the stars moved off centre in the middle, but on the flip side, these buns should be absolutely squidgy and airy, which they are. We can see on the side here, you've still got the layers, but they're kind of proofed together. There's no gaps between them, and that is what I like. You want this to sort of be like one big bun when you bite into it. Oh, the taste of Christmas. Soft, fluffy, buttery. You've obviously got the cinnamon. You can taste the clementine. That is Christmas in a mouthful. Absolutely wonderful. Do give this one a go. It's a real crowd pleaser. And if you do, then don't forget to post your images on Instagram with the hashtag Buzzby Bakes. I love to see how you're getting on. That's the end of the video. If you've enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Leave your comments below. Keep subscribing. We might just get to 3,000 before the end of the year, which would be a wonderful Christmas present. But anyway, until next year, enjoy your festive cooking and very happy baking.